For thousands of years, the story of the 12 tribes of Israel has stirred mystery and debate. Who were they? Where did they go? And why does their disappearance still shape prophecy, identity, and faith today? Some say they vanished forever. Others claim they live on through scattered nations and hidden lineages. In this video, we'll uncover the untold truth behind the so-called lost tribes, tracing their journey through exile, migration, and divine promise. Prepare to challenge what you've been told and rediscover a forgotten chapter of biblical history that may still be unfolding today. A vanished people or a hidden legacy? For centuries, the mystery of the 12 tribes of Israel has fascinated theologians, historians, and truth-seekers alike. These tribes, descended from the 12 sons of Jacob, later named Israel, formed the very foundation of the biblical world. Yet, somewhere in history, most of them seemingly vanished, without a trace. The Bible speaks of exile and scattering, but did they truly disappear? Or were they dispersed, transformed, and hidden within nations, waiting for their identity to be rediscovered? The answer is far deeper than mere history. It touches prophecy, identity, and divine purpose. The story of the 12 tribes is not just an ancient tale. It is a living mystery that continues to shape the destiny of nations today. The origins of the 12 tribes. The 12 tribes began with Jacob, the grandson of Abraham, whose name was changed by God to Israel after wrestling with the divine. Genesis 32, verse 28. His 12 sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin, became the patriarchs of 12 distinct tribes. Each tribe carried a unique destiny and blessing, as pronounced by Jacob and later by Moses. When the Israelites left Egypt during the Exodus, these tribes traveled together through the wilderness under the leadership of Moses and Joshua. They eventually settled in the promised land, Canaan, dividing the territory among the tribes. The Levites were not given land, but served as priests, while Joseph's 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, each became leaders of separate tribes, maintaining the number 12. This early period marked a time of unity, worship, and identity. Yet, history would soon turn toward division and exile, setting the stage for one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. The division of a kingdom. After the reigns of King Saul, David, and Solomon, Israel reached its height of glory. But Solomon's disobedience and idolatry brought judgment, leading to a split in the United Kingdom. Around 930 BCE, Israel divided into 2 nations. The northern kingdom, known as Israel, composed of 10 tribes. The southern kingdom, known as Judah, composed mainly of the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. This division was more than political. It was spiritual. The northern kingdom quickly fell into idol worship and rebellion against God, while Judah retained the temple in Jerusalem and maintained some degree of faithfulness, though it too would later fall. The prophets, from Elijah to Hosea, warned that the northern kingdom's sins would lead to exile and scattering among the nations, a warning that would soon come to pass. The Assyrian exile, the vanishing of 10 tribes. In 722 BCE, the Assyrian Empire conquered the northern kingdom of Israel. The Assyrians deported the 10 tribes to various regions of their empire, spreading them across the Middle East and beyond. This event marked the beginning of what history calls the lost 10 tribes of Israel. The Assyrians resettled these Israelites in lands such as Hala, Gozan, and the cities of the Medes. 2 Kings 17 verse 6. Over time, these exiled tribes were absorbed into other cultures, languages, and religions. They seemingly disappeared, leaving behind one of the greatest enigmas in biblical history. But did they truly vanish, or did they migrate, adapt, and survive under new identities? The Southern Kingdom and the Babylonian captivity. The Southern Kingdom, Judah, survived for about 130 years longer. But in 586 BCE, the Babylonians, under King Nebuchadnezzar, destroyed Jerusalem and the temple, exiling the people of Judah to Babylon. Unlike the northern tribes, however, Judah's exiles eventually returned. Under Persian rule, figures like Ezra, Nehemiah, and Zerubbabel led a remnant back to rebuild the temple and re-establish worship in Jerusalem. From this remnant, the Jewish identity, as we know it today, emerged. The people of Judah became known as Jews, preserving the covenant, the scriptures, and the promise of the Messiah. But the fate of the 10 northern tribes remained a mystery, forgotten by history, yet never forgotten by God. Prophecies of return and restoration. The prophets of Israel spoke not only of exile, but also of restoration. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and others foresaw a future day when all 12 tribes would be reunited. Ezekiel 37 verses 15 to 28 describes the vision of 2 sticks, one representing Judah and one representing Israel, being joined together in God's hand as one nation again. Isaiah 11 verse 12 proclaims that God will assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the 4 corners of the earth. Amos 9 verse 9 promises that though Israel will be sifted among the nations, not the least grain shall fall upon the earth. These prophecies make it clear the tribes were never meant to be lost forever. Their scattering was part of a divine plan that would one day lead to their rediscovery and reunion. Where did the lost tribes go? Theories and traces. Over centuries, countless theories have emerged about the fate of the lost tribes. While none can be proven with absolute certainty, several stand out as compelling possibilities. 1. The Middle Eastern theory. Some scholars believe the tribes never went far. Groups in northern Iran, Afghanistan, and Kurdistan have ancient traditions linking themselves to the exiled Israelites. The Pashtun of Afghanistan, for example, maintain oral traditions of descent from the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh. 2. The African connection. Others point to Africa. The Beta Israel of Ethiopia, known as the Ethiopian Jews, claim descent from the tribe of Dan. Their ancient traditions, unique religious practices, and later recognition by the State of Israel give weight to this claim. Additionally, the Lemba people of southern Africa possessed genetic markers linked to the priestly Kohanim line of Israel, suggesting a deep historical connection. 3. The Asian dispersal. Some historians trace remnants of the tribes into Asia, through the Silk Road, into India, and even as far as Japan and China. The Bni Minashi of northeastern India, for example, claim descent from the tribe of Manasseh, and have revived ancient Hebrew customs in recent generations. 4. The Western theory. In Europe, a controversial tradition emerged identifying the lost tribes with early Celtic or Anglo-Saxon peoples, giving rise to movements such as British Israelism. While most scholars reject this interpretation, it reflects humanity's deep desire to trace spiritual ancestry back to the biblical roots of Israel. 5. The global scattering. Perhaps the most profound view sees the lost tribes as scattered across all nations, not bound by bloodline alone, but by faith and covenant. According to this perspective, the restoration is not purely ethnic, it is spiritual. The divine promise to Abraham was that all nations of the earth would be blessed through his seed, Genesis 12 verse 3. Thus, the lost tribes' dispersion became the seed of global redemption. The return of identity, modern rediscoveries. In the 20th and 21st centuries, interest in the lost tribe surged. Archaeological discoveries, ancient manuscripts, and genetic studies have reignited the search. Communities across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East have stepped forward, claiming descent from the ancient Israelites. The Ethiopian Jews, Beta Israel, were airlifted to Israel in Operations Moses and Solomon during the 1980s and 1990s, recognized as part of the House of Israel after centuries of isolation. The Bani Minashi in India have also been welcomed to Israel, their return seen by some as a sign of prophecy unfolding. These movements suggest that the tribes were never truly lost. They simply waited for the appointed time to be recognized again. The spiritual meaning of the lost tribes. Beyond historical and genetic debates, the story of the 12 tribes carries a deeper spiritual message. The scattering of the tribes mirrors humanity's separation from divine unity, and their prophesied return symbolizes restoration and redemption. The Bible's narrative of exile and return reflects the human journey from disobedience to reconciliation, from fragmentation to wholeness. Each tribe represents a facet of humanity's divine purpose. Judah symbolizes leadership and praise. Levi represents holiness and service. Issachar embodies wisdom and discernment. Dan signifies justice and judgment. Together, the tribes form a complete expression of the divine image. Their scattering across the earth symbolizes the spreading of divine truth to every nation, preparing the world for ultimate unity. The mystery in prophecy, future restoration. Prophecy points toward a time when the 12 tribes will be restored and recognized once more. Revelation 7 speaks of 144,000 sealed from all tribes of Israel, 12,000 from each. This is not necessarily a literal number, but a symbol of completeness, representing the total restoration of God's covenant people. In the Messianic vision, the reunification of Israel is not merely about bloodline. It's about faithfulness. Those who carry the spirit of the covenant, who walk in truth and righteousness, are seen as part of Israel's spiritual restoration. Thus, the lost tribes are not just missing genealogies. They represent a hidden spiritual identity that transcends ethnicity. In the divine plan, the physical and spiritual Israel will merge into one redeemed people under the leadership of the Messiah. Modern reflections. The tribes and our time. Today, the idea of the lost tribe speaks directly to a divided world. In an age of disconnection, the biblical story of a scattered yet destined people reminds us that unity, purpose, and divine identity still matter. The reemergence of ancient tribes, the rediscovery of forgotten communities, and the global hunger for spiritual roots are all signs of a collective awakening. Humanity is yearning to remember where it came from and what it was meant to become. As Israel's story moves from history to prophecy, we are reminded that no people, no truth, and no promise of God ever truly vanish. They may be hidden, but never lost. The disappearance that shaped history. Few mysteries have captivated both scholars and seekers like that of the 12 tribes of Israel. Their story, woven through scripture, prophecy, and legend, stands at the crossroads of history and faith. Once a united people chosen to embody divine covenant, they became fragmented and dispersed, their names fading from political records, yet echoing eternally in sacred texts. The question that continues to echo through millennia is this: did the 12 tribes truly disappear? From the fall of ancient kingdoms to modern rediscoveries in Africa, Asia, and beyond, the fate of Israel's tribes remains both a historical puzzle and a spiritual revelation. Perhaps the real answer lies not in archaeology alone, but in the enduring spirit of identity and divine purpose that refuses to die. From patriarchs to promise, the roots of the tribes. The story begins with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the patriarchs of faith. Jacob, renamed Israel after wrestling with the divine, became the father of 12 sons. Each son would become the progenitor of a tribe, representing a different aspect of divine purpose and human experience. The tribes were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, whose two sons Ephraim and Manasseh formed two tribes, and Benjamin. Together, they formed the house of Israel, not merely a family, but a nation founded on covenant and destiny. Under Moses, the tribes were delivered from Egyptian bondage and led through the wilderness. Under Joshua, they entered and divided the promised land, each tribe receiving its inheritance. Their journey was both physical and spiritual, a pattern of liberation, faith, and divine testing that continues to define the people of Israel to this day. But what began as a united house would soon fall into division, exile, and scattering, fulfilling ancient prophecies of both judgment and redemption. The kingdom divides, seeds of dispersion. After King Solomon's reign, the once united kingdom of Israel fractured. Around 930 BCE, civil strife and idolatry split the land into two nations. The northern kingdom Israel, made up of 10 tribes with its capital in Samaria. The southern kingdom Judah, home to the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and much of Levi, centered in Jerusalem. The division was more than political. It symbolized the spiritual rift between faithfulness and rebellion. The northern kingdom quickly turned to idol worship, blending Canaanite customs with the worship of Yahweh. Prophets like Hosea, Amos, and Elijah warned of divine judgment, calling the people back to the covenant. Their warnings went unheeded. The stage was set for catastrophe. The fall of the 10 tribes, exile and silence. In 722 BCE, the mighty Assyrian Empire conquered the northern kingdom of Israel. The 10 tribes were taken into captivity, scattered throughout the Assyrian provinces in regions such as Hala, Gozan, and Media. This exile became the beginning of the legend of the lost 10 tribes of Israel. Unlike the Judeans, who would later return from Babylonian exile, these 10 tribes seemed to vanish. The Assyrians resettled foreign peoples in their former territories, and over generations, the exiled Israelites assimilated into surrounding cultures. Their languages changed, their customs evolved, and their names disappeared from the historical record. Yet, prophets like Amos and Isaiah spoke of hope. God declared that though Israel would be sifted among the nations, not one grain would be lost. Amos 9 verse 9. This was not annihilation, it was transformation. The tribes were hidden, not destroyed. Judah's survival, a remnant and a reminder. While the northern tribes were scattered, the southern kingdom endured longer. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi remained in Jerusalem until 586 BCE, when Babylon conquered them. Yet, unlike the 10 tribes, Judah's exile was temporary. After 70 years, under Persian rule, they returned and rebuilt Jerusalem and the temple. It was from this remnant that the term Jew from Judah arose. The Judeans became the visible heirs of Israel's faith, preserving the Torah, the prophets, and the hope of redemption. But in doing so, they carried the memory of their lost brothers, the 10 tribes whose fate remained veiled. The spiritual narrative of Israel would now include 2 movements, one of return and one of recovery. Prophecy and promise, the hidden Israel. The prophets consistently spoke of a future time when all 12 tribes would be reunited. Ezekiel 37 presents the vision of 2 sticks, one for Judah and one for Israel, being joined together in God's hand as one nation. Isaiah 11 verse 12 proclaims that the Lord will gather the dispersed of Judah and the outcasts of Israel from the 4 corners of the earth. Jeremiah 31 verse 10 echoes that God will not forget Israel, even in their scattering among nations. These prophecies suggest that exile was never the end. The scattering had a divine purpose, to spread the seed of Israel among the nations, so that one day the covenant would encompass all peoples. Thus, the disappearance of the tribes is not a tale of extinction, but of expansion. Their identity was hidden in plain sight, diffused among humanity, waiting for recognition in the fullness of time. Where did they go? The search for the lost tribes. Over the centuries, explorers, rabbis, and historians have sought traces of the missing tribes. Their quest spans continents and civilizations. While definitive proof remains elusive, intriguing evidence has emerged from multiple directions. 1. The Middle Eastern Trail. Some scholars believe remnants of the tribes remained near their original exile regions, in northern Iran, Kurdistan, and Afghanistan. The Pashtun tribes of Afghanistan, for example, maintain oral traditions claiming descent from the Israelites. Their tribal codes, circumcision practices, and ancient names bear striking similarities to those of biblical Israel. 2. The African Legacy. Africa holds one of the most compelling links. The Beta Israel of Ethiopia, commonly known as Ethiopian Jews, trace their ancestry to the tribe of Dan. Their ancient religious texts, dietary laws, and Sabbath observance closely mirror ancient Israelite practices. Similarly, the Lemba people of southern Africa carry oral traditions of Jewish priestly descent, and DNA studies have confirmed that many possess the Cohen modal haplotype, a genetic marker associated with the priestly line of Aaron. 3. The Asian Connection. In India and East Asia, groups like the Bni Minashi of northeastern India claim descent from the tribe of Manasseh. Their customs, festivals, songs of deliverance, and ancient Hebrew prayers suggest a memory of Israelite origin. Traces have even been observed in Japan, where ancient rituals and symbols bear similarities to Hebrew traditions, though this remains speculative. 4. The Western Theories. In Europe, various traditions arose identifying Western peoples with the lost tribes. Some early British scholars proposed British Israelism, claiming Anglo-Saxon descent from Ephraim and Manasseh. While historically unsubstantiated, this idea reflects the enduring power of the lost tribes narrative, the longing of many to find themselves within the divine story. 5. The Global Scattering. Another interpretation sees the lost tribes not as confined to any race or region, but as spiritually scattered throughout humanity. The covenantal promise to Abraham, that through his seed all nations would be blessed, Genesis 12 verse 3, suggests a universal purpose. Thus, the lost tribes might be hidden not by geography, but by faith, their restoration symbolizing the uniting of all peoples under the divine covenant. The hidden survival, spiritual continuity amid dispersal. If history has shown the tribes scattered, prophecy reveals them spiritually preserved. Their essence, faith, identity, covenant, did not die in exile. Instead, it evolved. Throughout history, communities across continents have preserved fragments of Israelite worship, language, and ethics. From ancient African synagogues to hidden Asian communities practicing Sabbath laws, the DNA of Israel's faith continues to reappear in unexpected places. Spiritually, this continuity reflects the divine principle that truth cannot be lost. What is rooted in covenant may go underground, but it cannot perish. Like a seed buried in the earth, it waits for the right season to rise again. This is why Scripture often compares Israel to an olive tree, pruned, scattered, yet alive at the roots. Romans 11 verses 17 to 24. Modern rediscoveries. Prophecy in motion. The 20th and 21st centuries have witnessed extraordinary developments. Communities long isolated and forgotten are being rediscovered and recognized. The Beta Israel were airlifted from Ethiopia to Israel during Operation Moses, 1984, and Operation Solomon, 1991, fulfilling ancient hopes of return. The Bni Minashi of India have also begun migrating to Israel, their return seen by many as prophetic fulfillment. Scholars continue to explore Israelite connections in West Africa, where groups like the Igbo have preserved customs resembling ancient Hebrew practices, including circumcision and dietary laws. These revivals suggest that the lost tribes were never truly lost. They were hidden, awaiting the appointed time for revelation. The spiritual message, from ethnic to universal Israel. The deeper truth behind the lost tribes transcends bloodlines. The prophets and later the New Testament reveal that Israel's destiny is not merely ethnic, but spiritual. Paul the Apostle writes that not all who are descended from Israel are Israel. Romans 9 verse 6. This means that the true inheritance of Israel lies not only in descent, but in faithfulness to the covenant. The lost tribes, therefore, symbolize humanity's own lostness, our collective exile from divine harmony. Their prophesied return mirrors the return of all creation to unity with God. Thus, the tribe's disappearance was part of a larger design. Through scattering, the message of monotheism, morality, and divine justice would spread across the world. Prophetic fulfillment, the end of the exile. Prophecies of restoration are not confined to the past. They point toward a coming unity. Ezekiel's vision of 2 sticks becoming one, and Revelation's mention of 144,000 sealed from the 12 tribes represent the ultimate reconciliation between the seen and unseen, the lost and the found. In this final restoration, the physical descendants and the spiritual heirs of Israel unite as one people, redeemed, awakened, and restored to divine order. The disappearance of the tribes, then, is not a tragedy, but a divine mystery, one that turns loss into purpose. The scattering of Israel became the scattering of light, illuminating nations and paving the way for a global covenant. Never lost, only hidden. So, did the 12 tribes of Israel truly disappear? Historically, they were conquered and dispersed. Politically, they vanished from the records of kings and empires. But spiritually, they were never lost. They live on in faith, in memory, and perhaps even in the bloodlines of people across continents. Their exile was not an end, but a beginning, a divine scattering that would one day lead to a greater gathering. The lost tribes were never lost to God. They were hidden among the nations, like embers waiting for breath. And in a world hungry for identity, unity, and truth, their rediscovery, both physical and spiritual, reminds us of a timeless promise, that what is scattered will be gathered, what is broken will be healed, and what seems lost will, in time, be found. The 12 tribes of Israel did not disappear. They became a living mystery written across humanity itself, a testament that divine purpose cannot be erased by history. The mystery of the 12 tribes of Israel reminds us that history is never truly lost, only waiting to be rediscovered. Their legacy lives on in faith, culture, and prophecy, stretching across continents and generations. Whether hidden or revealed, their story continues to shape the destiny of nations and the unfolding plan of the divine. If this journey opened your eyes to forgotten truths, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more ancient revelations. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and remember, the past is not gone. It's written within us all.